out there, masks where you can, hand sanitizer everywhere. If you feel safe to be here, which you do, I'm really grateful. Obviously, we have had a really get inside, and thank you, lovely, wonderful British weather. I'm not going to take up too much of your time. I'm sorry, I will be back here to talk, but it's been like the wacky races of it. You know, my kids are here as well, so childcare disproportionately affects the woman. Anyway, what I'd like to say is we now have the incredible, the amazing, I'm going to pick him up because he also does amazing speeches, Alan Martin, who is the General Secretary of the Durham Miners Association, to say a few words. Thank you, Alan.
Thanks very much, Laura. First of all, I'd like to thank Laura for that brilliant introduction, and I'd like to thank the Women's Planning Group for giving us the opportunity to come and address you all today in this wonderful miners' hall. I've got the privilege of working here. I see it day in and day out. It's an absolute joy and a privilege to work here and to be part of this history that this just oozes. This building was built to represent 200,000 plus Durham miners way back in 1915. It was opened in 1915 and actually started being built in 1913. Built on the pennies and eighties of men who sought justice, men who sought to a better life, a better future for future generations. The past we inherit, the future will build. We've now got a situation where we're in the worst position I've ever seen, certainly in my lifetime. I'm in my 60s now, and it's the worst position I've ever seen. We're seeing kids relying on food banks. We're relying on a football to make sure kids got fed during the school holidays. And we've got a Labour Party that's totally ineffective. I've been a member of the Labour Party for 43 years, through lots of ups and lots of downs. More recently, there's been more downs. In the past, at least, we used to have leaders who would stand up and point out these injustices. Not anymore. They're all singing off the same hymn sheet, but we're here. There might be a little niggle here and there, but no concerted effort to get these Tories brought to heel. And we'll do it. We've got to get a majority, so what? We could do that if we had the will. We've had people on the streets demonstrating across the country about the injustices that carry on day in and day out. Stormer says no. Rainer says nothing. The PLP say nothing. The Labour Party's never been a socialist party. I'm under the illusion about that. But it was a party with socialists in it. We've now got a leadership in the General Secretary who are kicking good socialists out of the Labour Party. People like Jeremy Corbyn and people like Ken Loach. An absolute disgrace. People tell me there isn't a heartfelt desire for massive change. I beg to differ. That's just why people voted Tory in the Labour Party, in parts of the Labour heartland in 2019. I tell you why. Because they were sick to death of getting let down by right-wing Labour governments in the past. A PLP that's self-centred and didn't do a thing to help these areas. The Tories have promised the world, they'll not deliver. They'll not deliver that, what all the promises that they say. But at least they promised it. And that was enough to get them elected, and our people were kicked out. The Labour Party were kicked out. We need a proper Labour Party. We need a Labour Party that's representative of working people and people who can't work, and with the interest of kids at heart, to make sure every kid's got a meal, they go to work, they go to school, with full stomachs. Is that too much to ask for the fifth richest or sixth richest nation in the world? I don't think so. So it is achievable. It's certainly achievable. We've got the situation where we're seeing what's happening in Afghanistan, what's happening in Iraq, what's happening in these areas where the Americans and the British have decided they know better than the local people and have intervened in areas that they know nothing about. lines drawn in the sand and trying to impose their will. They wonder why the Taliban's back in Afghanistan. Could have told them that 20 years ago. We were arguing 20 years ago. That as soon as the troops pull out, and they'll have to pull out at some point, there'll be carnage and there'll be chaos in Afghanistan. And there is. Why the hell did 400 odd British soldiers or service people lose their lives in Afghanistan? Or 1,200, I think it is, Americans. Why did they lose their lives? In futile wars, and they go on and on and on. I heard a Tory MP the other day saying, well, the problem is, with the withdrawal strategy, is that we haven't got enough people with military experience sitting in the House of Commons. Well, that'll do, fill it full of soldiers, that'll solve the problems. It's an absolute disgrace. Their idea of solving any problem is we'll just get bigger guns than the enemy's got and we'll win. It doesn't work. It's been proved not to work over and over again, and yet they keep committing the same mistakes. And I don't want to see any of our young men or young women being sent to these war zones for futile reasons and being named and being killed. And then they come out with a charity box and say, well, it's your duty to support these poor people who supported us. It's the duty of government to support them. Government sent them to be killed and they should be looking after the families and the memory of them people. And I don't disrespect the people who wear a uniform and fight for the freedom of this country and keep us safe. I haven't got a problem with that. I have got a problem when we try and terrorise other nations into submission. It's not on. We cannot be putting up with that anymore. We should be spending some of this money, these billions of pounds spent on wars. We should be spending it on feeding our kids. We should be spending it on building better schools, a better welfare state, not talking about withdrawing the £20 increase we gave them at the beginning of the COVID crisis for people on universal credit. They're clawing that back now. They're doing away with the triple lock for pensioners. They were promised 8.5%. They're not going to get that. I bet MPs get 8.5%. And people need to be asking themselves, why are they there? They're there, supposedly there, in the Palace of Varieties to represent our interests. They don't do that. They represent their interests. Give or take one or two notable exceptions. I think it's time for a new party. I think it's time for a new organisation, a socialist organisation, to take us forward. Because I'm sick to death of treading the streets, of delivering newsletters, of delivering cards and posters and putting posters in the window, and then just being forgotten about, and not even being reviewed, not even being considered by the mainstream Labour Party. We cannot be putting up with this anymore. Yes, we need conciliation. Yes, we need to talk. But you can only have conciliation and talk if, in a conversation if you've got two parties together. You need to achieve that by keeping good comrades out of the Labour Party. So I'll just leave you with that thought, comrades. Thanks for the opportunity to speak to this today. And just remember, the past we inherit, the future will build. Thanks very much.
Very good. Thanks so much, Alan. It wouldn't be a minus law without some heavyweight political speakers, and Alan will certainly take that box for us today. You said there, at the end of your speech, the past we inherit, the future we build. Today's event has been all about that. It is about our future. It is about education. And with that, I would really like to invite up to the stage the national president, who's from the northeast of NASWT, Phil Kemp.
Worrying thing is I didn't get that huge build-up I haven't got. Thanks for that. Alan works in this building. I was born and raised in Newton Aycliffe, one comprehensive lad, and it's quite an honour actually, Alan, to be speaking here. And one thing I've done in my involvement in the NASWT is, along with my colleague Simon Kennedy, we have absolutely ensured that our union, the NASWT, has really got involved in the Miners' Garden and anything to do with that event here. And if you do come on the Saturday into that event, you'll probably see a mass of these t-shirts of teachers, educationalists, getting completely involved in that day, in that event. And with Laura's involvement in this, all the events that surround that. The reason NESWT, the Teachers' Union, get involved in that is because of that ethos. It's that ethos of tolerance, equality, respect. And that is what we live by, and I hope the teaching profession try to live by that. And we try and promote everything that's good and potentially good in society. Now, that's off the top of my head. What I'm going to say is written here. This is the rubbish bit, probably. The event, I was asked by Laura to speak about something about supporting the Women's Banner Group. So the few words, it is a few words, because I thought we were going to be sitting outside in the sunshine. You didn't want to listen to anyone babble on in here. It would be, want to be out in the sun with your families, etc. Well, great northeast weather's put pay to that, hasn't it? But because it's about the Women's Banner Group, I think the few things I'd like to say is about women and girls and education and how that can impact and change things for them. But you can't do that, I think, without remembering or thinking about some of the experiences women and girls have across this planet, and not just insular in the United Kingdom. And Alan references Afghanistan and what's going on there. And I think we've got to be really, really concerned about what impact the current and recent events in Afghanistan are going to have on women. No matter what the rights and wrongs of what's happened in the last 10, 20 years in Afghanistan, it has definitely been better for women in that country. And there have been better human rights, better access to education, a better way of life for women in that country. And it concerns me what's going to happen to women and girls in that country in the next few months. And I think we need to do everything we can to highlight any injustices, highlight any wrongdoing, and try and do what we can. Not just the trade union movement, but actually Western society as a whole needs to really keep an eye on that and what impact that's going to have on women and girls. But it is just a focus, if we think about it. Those things we are worried about in Afghanistan are just a focus of huge patches of this planet that girls and women experiences those injustices as part of everyday life. There are so many countries where women do not have the right to vote, where men do. There are so many countries where women cannot drive. There are so many countries where they have no access to education. And some teenage girls we know, we hear about it all the time, tragically on the news, have to face the prospect of mutilation of their bodies as teenagers. I mean, these are horrendous things. And I think the West and Western society sometimes has a duty to call those things out and attack them and do what we can to try and protect those women and protect those rights. And really embrace the human rights of women and girls in those countries.
How are we going to do that?
Well, that's the question. And that's the question I think as a society we need to have a proper conversation about. And the answers are not going to come from one individual. It's going to come from having a proper communication, a proper conversation with anybody, and engage with anybody.
With the Taliban. The Taliban and the West need to get around it.
Well, I've said, and as a trade unionist, I absolutely get the fact that the way you solve things is by discussion, negotiate, and I think Alan reflected that in his speech.
You might not like the Taliban, but that's not the point. The point is they are actually ruining the country.
As a trade unionist, sometimes I don't like employers I deal with, but I still have to talk to them, so I agree with you. The UK, of course, is not without challenges. And again, Alan referenced this. As Alan was going on, I was thinking, I'm not going to mention that. He's going to mention that. It's typically been the person who comes second in in terms of speeches. Yeah, Marcus Rashford's much publicised school meals campaign should not have been necessary, but the government was found lacking, and it took a young footballer to hold them to account. Charities like the Red Box Appeal, aimed at alleviating period indignity, have focused on the need of young people to have access to sanitary products and safe and hygienic spaces in our schools. As an educator, it has saddened me to learn that even in 2021, managing dignified periods in schools is still impossible in some areas and for some people. Figures still suggest that over 137,000 school days were missed by girls last year, and that is in the height of lockdown, etc., were missed by girls in school because of issues around period dignity. Now, just providing free sanitary products and nothing in addition to that, the education, the hygienic spaces, the understanding in schools, that issue will not go away. Something needs to be done very quickly about that. The COVID pandemic has not helped matters in this country. Lockdowns, job losses, increased demands on food banks, so many families have been affected. But again, recent education and research has shown that it is women and girls that have been hit hardest. I'm keen that in our schools we tackle gender stereotypes. Across the curriculum, across year groups, white men still dominate. Explorers, artists, inventors, composers, and leading figures in science and engineering remain predominantly the male domain. Research tells us in children's storybooks, female characters outnumber male characters less than 1/5 of the time. We need better role models for our daughters. Low-level sexist language, often downplayed by the word banter, reinforces stereotypes. Again, in schools, even our youngest children assume a girl will be asked to tidy the classroom. A boy will ask to be carrying something or to carry something. As adults, parents, teachers, fathers, role models, mothers, we must challenge low expectations based on gender. Then there is the worrying data gathered by the NESWT, which was the news about a month ago. Sexist abuse experienced, sexist language abuse in schools, largely by female pupils and largely by female staff, is on the increase in UK schools. Again, this needs to be outed, this needs to be out there in the public domain, and schools and the government and the DfE need to do something about it. Down-blousing, upskirting and being challenged by the NESWT in court on behalf of our members successfully. But that is just the tip of the iceberg. The fact unions have had to fight hard in the past for equal pay, maternity rights, and are currently challenging employers to be more supportive of employees facing the challenges that menopause can cause at work, show we are at the beginning of this journey, we are not at the destination. We are making progress, but that progress, as the gentleman there is pointing out, is too slow. Lots of kind supportive words like these, but very real changes in society that will make a real difference. The challenge is facing us today. Big societal changes, big conversations need to take place to understand and give a true meaning to the word equality, especially for women and girls in our society. Unions have fairness at their very heart, and I have always, as a County Durham lad, been a proud trade unionist in the teaching profession. As a probationer teacher back in the 80s, I probably became one of the youngest school reps there ever was, in Newcastle and was proud to be so. And I think the trade union movement has a huge role in this conversation, in this piece of work around assuring a better deal for women and girls in our society. Thank you for listening to me.
Thanks very much, Phil. As Laura said earlier, it wouldn't be a Minds Gala without heavyweight political speakers. It also wouldn't be a Minds Gala without trade union speakers. So thank you very much for that. And also thank you so much for mentioning the plight of the women in Afghanistan at the minute. That is something that Laura and I will be speaking about tomorrow on the steps of the monument in Newcastle. So we'll address that then as well. Everyone who knows me knows how much I hate public speaking and how I avoid it whenever I possibly can. However, I knew Laura wouldn't do herself justice if she was left to introduce herself. Everyone here knows Laura, and while she needs no introduction, I'm going to do one anyway. She's the founder of the Women's Banner Group, responsible for bringing all of the founding members together to oversee our first project, which was the production of our community banner, Mary, which you've obviously seen, in order to create an official space for women in the Durham Miners Gala. Shortly after that first march, due to the popularity of the Women's Banner Group, Laura saw the potential of the group to provide a platform for women who want to campaign and have their voices heard, and we morphed into something more than just a banner group. As a dedicated socialist, activist and trade unionist, Laura's passion is inspiring to us all. As with many people involved in politics these days, Laura has the inability to say no to anything, which has only benefited the Women's Banner Group over the years, as we've been invited to speak at many high-profile events, giving us the opportunity to talk about women's rights, equality, the important role of women in society, and the amazing women of the Durham coalfield that history has not recorded. One particular area that Laura is very passionate about is the focus of our Schools Workshops programme, and it's giving young women a voice. Today, Laura will be speaking to you with one of those young women, Emily, who has been inspired by the Women's Banner Group, who wanted to speak to you all today. So without further ado, I introduce Emily and Laura.
A couple of things I want to say just quickly before the highlight of the entire day and start speaking. We have had, first of all, Lynn, thank you. That was really above and beyond ridiculous, but thank you. We've had, as you've seen, the stalls that are out there today, really, really important causes that are out there. We have Sizwell, which is the coal mining charity. Please do go talk to them, find out all about it. Also, we have a stall outside from Queen's Retreat. Please go and have a chat with the women from Queen's Retreat. Their campaign is so important. I'm not going to go into detail here because I've told you about it. I can't tell you, I can't express how important it is. They do have a raffle on, so even if you don't think their thing is important, which you will, the stuff they're raffling is amazing. So please go after this, after we've seen everybody, go out, have a chat with them, talk to them about what they're doing and what they're achieving. They're doing wonderful things. Please go out. They're literally just under the stairs and they'll be here all day, so go and check them out. And then I'm going to have to make this a little bit shorter. Not quite really short. For this incredible young woman who I just have so much respect for, and I think she's amazing. You'll see that for yourself. She's been
I thought about the fact that they barely see women's sport on the telly. Now that for lads who loves football and sports, it's totally shocking. I didn't even know they existed before that. That made me think about Stop laughing. If I spoke to the big guys in footy, I think no. Like, come on, what would you think?
No, I don't.
Exactly, it's shocking, ain't it? I could be the future Prime Minister yet because I'm 9. They would listen to me. Why? Because children should be seen, not heard. But we all want to build a better future, but if don't listen to the future generation and listen to changes they would like to see, how could we expect to see great changes? So come on, kids. Mum, put 2 come-ons. Oh, my favourite singer, Emily Sanders, says, "You got the words to change our nation, but you bite your tongue. You spent our lifetimes stuck in our silence after you say something wrong if no one ever hears it. How we gonna learn your song if you want things to change? Speak up. You're born with a voice to make bigger changes. Speak up, be counted and helped. How will the future we want live? And parents, listen to your kids. Me and don't buy a McDonald's. You want us to listen to you? Well, it works both ways. Make sure your kids are seen and heard. You want to make changes when make that change today. Remind them they have hearts and loud as lions. So don't let their voices be timid. Maybe you're a little different. There's no need for them to be ashamed. They got the light to fight the shadows, so stop making them hide it away. Let their voices be heard. Let people ready all about them, and let's see change today.
Joe Solo coming up. You will get better introduction from that, I promise. So I'm going to say a few words and then we'll take a little break. It's been an absolute pleasure and so uplifting to say it. See, I've written this before, but I knew that this would be true. It has been a pleasure and really uplifting to see everyone here today. It's been a long couple of years and the band group has really missed being out in our communities. So this has been really special and it's lovely to see you all here today. We're incredibly proud to be surrounded by so many talented, creative, articulate and clever people. The North East really is a place to look for inspiration. It's funny then that this isn't a picture that's painted by successive governments. We, in the North East especially, have suffered from decades of neglect under a system that sees us, the working class, as less than. We'll get political. We just have to look at the disparity of funding to know that we up here are disposable. London gets 24 times the funding we do for infrastructure, like transport. Anyone who's trying to get from one of our County Durham villages into the city centre will know that. Or we can look at the ways our politicians try to reach out to connect to us and win our votes. There's no need for well thought out meticulous policies. A pint down the local pub should do it. I mean, they might as well go the whole hog and wear a flat cap by hugging a pet ferret and watching Big Game. But I think the most telling thing is our education system. The classism within it is so apparent and it hasn't moved on in decades, maybe even centuries. Yeah, we've had some decent schemes in place to help the less fortunate, the vulnerable, or the less capable. What they mean is poor or poor, depending on what you think. Classist attitudes are embedded within our society, and our leaders believe there is a real correlation between wealth and aptitude. Because only rich people are clever, you see. They're not stupid enough to be poor, I suppose. This vicious Tory government has punished our children by dismantling any support and taking away any chance of opportunity. I can assure you it is not lack of talent or ability. Some of the best thinkers, the most capable, the most interesting people I've met have come from what you call deprived backgrounds. And deprived isn't a dirty word, it's something that's been done to you. It's been done to us, to our communities, to our potential. And mark my words, it is being done on purpose. A concerted effort by the elite to keep the wolves from the door. Should we ever reel up high enough to sink our teeth into them, tear apart their cruel ideologies, and spit out their capitalist hearts? We are kept down for a reason. Our ideas, our community spirit, our collectivism, our wealth, our knowledge, our lived experiences, our potential, our intellect, our artistry, our capacity for empathy, and our dreams are bigger, bolder, brighter than anything that has come before. They are scared of us, of what we can achieve, so they make us believe that we can't achieve anything. I know they're wrong, you know they're wrong, we need to come together, like we always do, like we have today, like we do every year at the Durham Lions Gala, to build in our communities, to grow our links like a spider's web of socialism through the country, creating spaces for our children to flourish in academia, art, music, science, literature, whatever their heart leads them to encourage them to see and believe their own potential to do great things. Because like the banner says, the past we inherit, the future we build. It's time to make society better for our future builders. Thank you. We're going to take a little break now before we come back. I'll just have one more campaign that I did want to mention. You might have seen some of the banners here today. It's the No to Hasselfield campaign. Basically stopping the detention centre in Hasselfield. If you don't know back